Hi, my name is Kristen Furtenbaugh, and I'm the supervisor of the Viable Utility Reserve Projects Unit. So what we work with is water and wastewater utility infrastructure, and we provide funding for those projects to distressed local governments. And I have a whole bunch of little background bits on this. So I always like to have a little outline just to remind myself and let everybody know kind of what we're doing with this presentation. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more background on the Viable Utility Reserve so you kind of understand what I'm talking about when I say some things. And then I'll talk about what we've kind of done with GIS mapping. I'd like to preface my presentation with there's been a lot of really cool, innovative stuff presented at this conference. We're doing stuff that's pretty basic, but trying to better improve our customer service through the use of GIS, specifically for small communities that may not have a lot of technological capability or understanding. We're trying to really make sure that we help them out and make it as easy as possible for them to find the information that we want to share with them. So our reserve, our funding program has only been around since mid-2020. So we're a pretty young funding program compared to the other funding programs like the state revolving fund programs, which have been around for decades. And there's many other grant programs not in our division, but so we're pretty new. We're kind of developing our program as it's happening live, which is both really fun and also very confusing and terrifying for a lot of people. So initially we only had about $9 million of funding, so we weren't doing actually any project funding. So we weren't really ramping up a lot of stuff because we just didn't have a lot of money. But then if you guys have heard of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA for short, ARPA suddenly dropped almost half $500 million in our lap in 1 year. So we went from very suddenly from kind of slowly building our program and trying to figure things out to all of a sudden having to have a program right now that's actually active and working. So that's just kind of giving you the perspective of kind of where we're at and why we're kind of rushing forwards with a lot of things. So we created different distress criteria. So we only work with a subset of local governments in North Carolina. So there's more than 400 local governments in North Carolina. We work with a small subset that have been designated as distressed. There's 131 of those right now. There's a whole assessment criteria process. We're going through the reassessment right now. I'm not going to go into all of that. But we do have some requirements for these local governments. LGU is local government unit. So if you see LGU and I say local government, that doesn't mean the same thing. So the biggest thing that we're trying to expand our GIS presence on is that there's a requirement for these local governments that have been designated to do an asset inventory and assessment. I've heard a lot of different talks since I've been here yesterday and today about asset inventory, asset assessment. So if you've attended some of those, you might be familiar with that. Basically, they have to go out into their water and or wastewater system and, catalog everything that they have, how old it is, what material it is, what condition it's in, when it needs to be replaced. Is that today? Is that yesterday? Is it 10 years from now because it's practically brand new? But what we're requiring going forwards with these AIAs, these asset inventory and assessments, is that if they develop GIS shapefiles, we're requiring that they provide that to us, to our division. We haven't 100% formulated out where we want to go with this data because it's going to be very piecemeal to start with. We're only going to have a few communities here and there, and then we'll keep gathering more and more over time. Some different efforts could include targeting or assisting with disadvantaged areas, so kind of tying into the Justice 40 and environmental justice and trying to make sure that we're targeting those areas. If we can identify where a water system, for example, has water lines, if they extend near to or right up against a disadvantaged area, maybe that's something where water service could be provided to those areas, or on the opposite side, a wastewater system. There's a lot of areas in the state that have failing septic, and there's not a lot of options, or maybe they don't know what the options are. So we're trying to help kind of amalgamate all this information into one spot so that we have it, we can see it, and we can assist these communities with providing water and wastewater service to their customers and to future customers as well. Another effort that has been talked about is system boundary mapping, understanding where systems actually are. Because if I go to Google Maps and I look up a town in North Carolina, like the first one that came to my head is Edenton. I don't know why, it just came to my head. Like if I pull up Edenton, that it gives me a little spot on the map, and it might give me some city boundaries or some town boundaries. but that doesn't tell me where the water and wastewater system is, right? So I can see the incorporated area, maybe the unincorporated area, but I'm not seeing necessarily where their water lines are, where their wastewater lines are, where the treatment plant is, where their pump stations are. So we're trying to just collect all of this information. And like I said, we don't have a very clear idea exactly where we're going to go with it, but we have lots of big ideas of where we want to go with it. We figure the first place to start is collecting the data, collecting that information. All of these other requirements that I have listed here, these are other requirements for the distressed utilities, but they're not necessarily GIS related. It's mostly that asset inventory and assessment piece that is GIS related. So as far as our specific mapping efforts go, I mentioned at the beginning, we're being very basic right now. We're not doing any of these super cool, fancy things. We're just trying to get information out to the public in the most streamlined, easy, straightforward way possible. It does help people, instead of putting a spreadsheet on our website that says, open this spreadsheet. If you open this spreadsheet, it'll tell you who to contact and when. It's a lot easier if people can be like, oh, I'm gonna zoom into my county and then I'm gonna click my little dot and then I can see all this information right there, right? It just makes it a little bit easier, a little more user-friendly, and it's not, I hate to say it's a boring spreadsheet, but it's not a boring spreadsheet, right? Like we've all worked with spreadsheets, right? I really like working with spreadsheets, but I recognize also that they're a little bit meh to look at visually, right? So another thing that we are trying to look at is where our local governments that are distressed are actually located. Where are they in the state? Are there concentrations, which there are? I'll show you the map in just a second. Are there areas where we don't have a lot of distressed communities? And then we also just kind of want to share contact information and also support our internal program and project management. So this is the public map. Like I said, it's very basic. It's very straightforward. What we have on this map, I have this little pop-up here so you can see all the different things that we're trying to show. So we show distressed versus non-distressed. We have very basic color separation there, right? You can see on this map, there's a pretty big concentration here of distressed communities, right? On the kind of northeastern part of the state, and then the rest of the state is fairly scattered. So that was something that really jumped out to us when we created this map immediately. It was like, oh, they're all kind of right there in that one area. The other thing that we show is the Council of Governments. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Council of Governments that we have. I don't remember how many in the state. But they basically have a group of counties that are under a council of government. Councils of government are how we divide up our project assignments. So that's why we wanted to show that on here, and I've got some pop-ups I'll show you on the next couple of slides. But if you look at these dark blue outlines, they show the different councils of government that the state is split up into. Now, the pastel color coding is our DEQ regional offices. So the Division of Water Infrastructure that I'm in is part of the Department of Environmental Quality, which also includes things like water resources, which includes public water supply, wastewater permitting, wastewater compliance, drinking water compliance. So all these folks that they might need to contact or get a hold of. So we're trying to also show where everyone is in the region, because some folks, honestly, they don't necessarily know exactly where they are, but they're like, oh, I'm in Raleigh region. And they can find where they are or what they're looking at, or they know that a town is in Raleigh region or Fayetteville region. So they can kind of zoom into those areas and kind of narrow down a little bit further. So like I said, it's very basic, it's very straightforward. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible for folks that find our website or get a link to this map to be able to just kind of point and click, really. Make it as straightforward as possible. So we did set up a couple of different pop-ups. So if folks click on any of those little dots, regardless of whether it's dark blue or light blue, it'll pop up 3 different things. The first thing is it will pop up information about that local government. Now, we went with very basic information, so it tells you what their name is. So this one pop-up is Rockingham County. It tells you whether they have drinking water, wastewater, or both. It tells you what their most recent assessment criteria score was. Tells you whether they're designated or not, and then it tells you the date they were designated. So these were things that we agreed upon within our work unit with our director and our PIO that were kind of the most important things to share with the general public, with giving just enough information without inundating them with a bunch of information, right? Because you kind of have to find that fine balance. The next pop-up that comes up, gives them our contact information. So our unit, as I mentioned before, divides the state up by councils of government. So with a lot of different staff and a lot of different councils of government, it becomes unwieldy very quickly to put it in some sort of spreadsheet or Word format, right? So if they pop up this little one, it just tells them exactly who to contact. So Tim Woody, it tells you that he is working with the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. It's still the Winston-Salem Regional Office. It's Rockingham County. It gives you his phone number. It gives you his email, right? Point and click, very easy to find who you need to contact, who you need to get a hold of if you have any questions. So we're trying to basically make it just as easy as possible for people to find out who to contact. Has anybody gone to the DEQ website and tried to find contact information before? I've seen a few hands. It's a pain. It's a pain, right? I fully recognize that. If you know exactly who you're looking for, you can find them pretty easily, but if you don't know exactly who you're looking for, chances are you're not gonna find them very quickly, or maybe not even at all. I mean, I've been working for DEQ for over 12 years now, and I still can't find people that I know work for the state sometimes. So making it very easy, they get a phone number, they get an email, they get a name. This is who they contact. So if they wanna call, they can call. If they wanna email, they can email. Because we all know some folks prefer to call, some folks prefer to email, some folks like to do both. So we wanted to make it straightforward as possible. The last bit of information that we give them in the little pop-up by their local government is the regional office information. Because that way, if they find us, they can also find who they need to contact about questions about compliance, about permitting, about inspections. And these folks are generally going to be people that they're probably already familiar with. They've probably already talked to, they've probably already seen those names before. So it kind of connects all the dots together, right? So it connects the permitting and compliance groups to us, to the distressed local government, right? So we're trying to just put all these things together. So the basic public web map is what we're gonna put on our website. It's not up there right now. We actually just finished it last week in preparation for this presentation. So I could show you the updated map. Shane, who's on my team, he's back in the room here. He helped me a lot getting this set up and getting it put all together and making sure all the contact information was right and consistent. But we do also have an internal map that has a lot more information on it. Something that we don't put on the website because we don't want people to drown in information. Now, if they want that info, they can ask us for it, right? We'll provide it on a case-by-case basis if they want to see that kind of stuff. But for the public web map, we kept it very short and simple. Wow, simple. I was trying to say short and sweet, and then I said simple, and it just all kind of blended together. So we wanted to keep it very simple. So the internal dashboard has a lot more information. It's very detailed. It gives you all of their assessment score information, lots of financial and compliance metrics. So when we assess these local governments to be able to designate them as distressed, we look at 20 different metrics that include financial data and compliance data from both water and wastewater systems, if they have both, or just one or the other, if they have just one or the other. Our internal staff like to use this because they can get a quick snapshot of a lot of information, system by system, in a very easy format. Again, it's not a spreadsheet, which can get unwieldy. I mean, if you've ever seen like a massive, insane spreadsheet, that's what we have for our assessment data. So even if you know exactly what you're looking for, it can be a pain to try to find that information in a format that makes a lot of sense, right? Even though we look at that data, we see that data all the time, it still gets confusing. We call it the big ugly spreadsheet, very affectionately. So we use a dashboard structure. I want to be upfront. I did not develop this dashboard. When we redo the dashboard, I will develop it, but I am new to GIS, so I had to have a lot of help to get this off the ground. The state government group is doing a bunch of presentations this afternoon, some of which are overlapping this one, and some of which are in the next session. But Melanie Williams built this original dashboard. So thank you to her, who's not in this room, but thank you to her for doing that. So this dashboard is complicated. There's a lot of information on it. So we wanted to have a lot of different features so that our staff could have a lot of different options for navigating around and finding what they want to find, however they want to find it, right? So on the left side, we have a lot of different ways that they can select who they're looking for. They can select what kind of systems they're looking for. They can select by this total score. They can select by the system itself. So if you scroll down the select system for details, if you scroll down, it has all 454 local governments that we assessed in all of their glorious data. So you can scroll down manually. You can also do searches. We wanted to have a lot of different functionalities so that people could find things however they want to find them, right? Because we all think differently. We all look for things differently. We all see things differently. So we wanted to have lots of different options. So once you select a local unit of government, you get all this super detailed information. So I've blacked out the person's or the local government score and their name just so, all of this information, isn't just out there tied to them. So you can see that they have a statutory moratorium that's on their wastewater system. You can see that they've got different scores based on the revenue outlook, based on their unit assistant list, which is from the local government commission. There's things about their rates, their debt service coverage ratio, percent depreciation, all kinds of different financial metrics. So if you select a local government on the left side, you can all of a sudden see all this super detailed information about them. So if they call you, or not you, but us, so if they call us and they say, hey, I want to know why I got this or what my score was on this, we can use this dashboard to assist very quickly finding that information, as opposed to having to go back to the big ugly spreadsheet. We also have very general information at the bottom, just kind of showing us a quick snapshot, how many systems are wastewater, how many systems are drinking water, and how many systems are both. So the big blue part, that's the systems that have both water and wastewater systems. And then the smaller red and green are drinking water and wastewater respectively. And then we also have it broken down by score. So here we've got the same colors. So blue is both, red is drinking water, green is wastewater. And it's a little bit hard to see because it's a little bit small. But you can see as the score goes from 0 all the way up to 21 is our highest score from that assessment. You can see kind of the breakdown of where the utilities fall. So you can see both makes up the biggest curve, but then you can see that the red and green curves down here kind of follow the same pattern, where there's kind of a peak right around, 4 or 5 points, 3 to 5 points, and then it tapers off as it goes into a higher score or into a lower score. So it's just quick information for us to kind of see what we have statewide in this assessment. So last but not least, our favorite part, right? The map. So the map delineates score. So it doesn't show distressed or not, it shows the score, because we internally know what the threshold for scoring is for distressed. It's 8 for utilities that only have water or wastewater. It's 9 for utilities that have both. We know that. So what we wanted to see on this internal map was more the distribution of scores. So red, and I advocated for changing away from the red, orange, green, because I feel like it looks like it's like bad and good. I don't like that. But we used red for the highest score, just so you can see who's high scoring. We used green for the lowest scoring ones, just to kind of see a distribution of scores, right? It's all about seeing that. You can also, like our public map, click on any of these dots and it will automatically select this information on the right for you as well. So you can also use the map to navigate. If you want to use the map to navigate, you can use the things on the left to navigate. We basically wanted to give as many points of functionality as we could for our staff, because at this point we have, I think it's 9 staff, and we've definitely had some heated discussions about who likes things viewed in certain ways, right? Because we all think about things differently, we all view things differently. So with that, that is all that I have. I think I'm right at 20 minutes. I'm very timely, I'm good at that. So yeah, do y'all have any questions? I know it's right after lunch, so, but I understand. Yes, yep. Yeah, so that's a great question. The question was kind of like, what do we fund? So we fund almost anything related to water and wastewater infrastructure as a division, as a whole. The viable utility reserve funding is narrowed down statutorily to things like rehab replacement, regionalization, decentralization, or other things. I'm not going to quote it exactly correctly, but other projects which are deemed to generate sufficient revenues to provide for the appropriate operation maintenance of the system. So that last one is kind of like a catch-all caveat, but it's a little bit trickier to justify. But yeah, the majority of the projects we get are rehab and replacement in kind. So they're just, rehabilitating what they have in the ground, rehabilitating what they have above ground, or if they need to, if it's failed beyond repair, they replace it in kind. So that's the majority of what we see. And then we do see a few regionalization projects. Yes, yeah. So we have 2 application funding rounds a year. So our most recent one that closed on September 30th of last year, and we just awarded the funds through the State Water Infrastructure Authority in February. Our next funding round closes, it's towards the end of April, beginning of May, but I do not remember do you remember the exact day? No? Okay. I don't remember the exact day, but it's around the end of April. It's usually like the last Friday in April or the following May. If the last Friday in April or the last day in April is like a Wednesday, we usually go to like May 2nd or something like that. But yeah, they have to apply. It is competitively funded. So we have a priority rating system. They have to provide a narrative and a supporting information, and then we score all the projects. We have at least 2 people look at every single project, and then they go through a consensus with a group, and then they get rated. So it's a very rigorous funding process. And other states are different. So if you've ever worked with funding programs similar in other states, they do different things. Some of them just do rolling applications where you can just apply at any time. We do not right now. We have a 2 spring and a fall round, basically. Yes. I don't think so. They might be able to apply for drinking water state revolving fund money. They might qualify there, but only local governments can apply for viable utility reserve funding. That's a good question though, because I do know that we have some projects that are at universities, but they are probably applied for by the city serving. Yeah. Oh yeah, we have some towns that have water lines that are even older. So I believe it. But yeah, I think the drinking water SRF has a little bit more flexibility, but wastewater and the VUR are a little bit tighter. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, this one right here. No, so the dark blue dots qualify for all of our division funding as well as VUR funding. The light blue dots would only qualify for other division funding. So, and not the VUR funding, because the VUR is limited to those that are distressed. We had the biggest pot of ARPA money, so there was a lot of competition. So if they have a water or wastewater utility, we have assessed them. If they were not assessed and they have a water or wastewater utility, that means that likely the local government commission doesn't know they have a utility, because we tie all of that together to like their financial auditing requirements. So if you do know a town that has a water or wastewater utility and they're not on the map when we get it up, our PIO is looking at it right now, so hopefully it'll be up in the next couple of weeks. Please let us know. Please contact us and we can definitely add them to our assessment. We just started it, we're starting it right now, so there's still time to get into this year's assessment if they happen to get missed somehow. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.